Well, as we speak, lawmakers at the state capitol are debating a controversial bill that would eliminate the religious exemption for childhood vaccines. The House taking up the bill today. Lawmakers going back and forth on the legislation. We're told an amendment to grandfather in kids in grades K through 12 right now has passed, but there are several other amendments to the bill being heard before the House does that final vote. The debate over whether to eliminate the exemption spanning years in Connecticut.
This bill has been around for 4 years. Despite our attempts to try to negotiate the bill, the majority, the Democrats, have decided to take a sledgehammer to this issue as opposed to something more gentle.
There's no obligation of the state to educate people who are not enrolled. And so if you don't comply with if you don't have a medical exemption and you have not complied with the state statute that is required of vaccinations, you're not enrolled. So I know there'll be a lawsuit, and unless the courts overturn 100 years of precedent, some will make the argument today that the Connecticut Constitution requires an education. It does if you're enrolled. If you don't follow the other statutes regarding public health, though, that will override the state constitution provision. That's been the ruling of both the state and U.S. Supreme Court for a long time.
Now, the bill would still need to be voted on in the Senate if it moves forward out of the House.